world where people needlessly die of preventable illnesses, one man's vision offers hope to humankind. Order Professor Arnold Ehret's annotated, revised, and edited Mucusless Diet Healing System today.
Greetings, brothers and sisters. I'm Professor Spira, and welcome to yet another discussion. And with me is Tony Baliby. And we're going to do several videos where we explore various topics or questions. And Tony has some questions for me, and most of those questions I've heard other places and had always planned on maybe doing a video to talk about them or doing some kind of written thing. So we will be covering general questions that people often have when they practice the Mucusless diet. So I'll turn it over to Tony.
Hey, greetings, Spira. So yeah, man, I'm up here kind of working myself towards a raw mucusless fruit period. I've been doing kind of mucusless salads, and really I've been kind of overeating the fruit, just kind of pushing it through me, doing enemas usually like in the morning and evening, and just kind of working myself back to some fruit. And I kind of have a job thing coming up here around the corner, but my body is telling me, like, you got to do this, you know? And it's one of those things, man, where I'm just like, my health comes before everything, because I've seen the effects. I've seen, like, I've just seen the effects on my emotions, my mindset, just my physiology. And it's like, this is really what's important to me right now. And I just wanted to kind of holler at you about, like, when we're on a kind of raw mucusless fast, whether it's like all grapes or a mono fruit diet, mucusless fruit diet, of any kind, like, and even a juice fast, when we're faced with like school obligations or work obligations, how do you approach that? As far as, would you ever come off of a fast when your body doesn't want to? You know what I mean? Like, your body's in a mood to say, I feel good, keep going. But you know, like, you might be a little sluggish in the morning, or you might hit that afternoon feeling where you're like, oh, I need some fruit and I'm working or something, you know. Would you let society kind of dictate your fast in that way?
Well, and here's my approach, because it's basically the same thing. You were referencing something that I had said in the video with Brother Air, and I mentioned that I don't base my physiological and diet decisions on what I'm doing, or at least that's my mentality. That's what I try to do. Am I perfect? Probably not. But my mentality is such that I never make the excuse that, well, man, I can't do such and such because I gotta work, or because I gotta do this, or I must eat this because of that. It's not that I won't eat that. It's not that I won't have some nuts and raisins, but I'm not gonna eat nuts and raisins, or I'm gonna try to not eat nuts and raisins because I need to be stimulated, or feel that I need to be stimulated based on social obligations. If I eat it, it's because I need it physiologically. And if I can still eat it and I can still digest it, that means I'm not beyond it. I'm not too good for it. So there is obviously either a psychological or a physical necessity of elimination or whatever. Oftentimes it's psychological. Like, we're still mentally addicted to these various forms of mucus causing foods. So for me, it's about a mentality. It's about saying that I'm not going to do something based on the societal piece, the structure, the social thing. I'm not going to go to a party or go someplace where everybody's eating and then say, well, I guess I could just eat, because everybody's eating and it's the occasion, and and that kind of attitude. And I've been through that, so I know that doesn't work for me. I know that I can't keep the kind of seriousness that I have and maintain the kind of no negotiation. For me, there's no negotiating to say, well, maybe if I'm hanging here or I'm doing this, I can splurge this one time. Like, no, not for the social. Again, that does not mean that I do not splurge. When I splurge, it's based 100%, as much as I can help it, it's based on addiction. It's based on physical and mental addiction to mucus-forming foods that my body really probably doesn't need, yet I'm still addicted. So on that level, I'm not hard on myself when I do eat those foods. That's basically where I'm coming from, and that was just a particular mentality. There's what's practical for a lot of people is what Brother Air said. Sometimes if you need to deal with something at work, or you need to deal with something at school, or you feel like you need that stimulation because of whatever it is you're going through, you grab for those nuts and raisins. Go and eat some nature burger or some kind of vegetarian type of food. Anything that keeps you in the game. See, that's about the Mucusless diet, is like you got to do whatever you have to do to stay into it. There is no falling off. There is no, in the way that some of the raw food folks have this mentality, they lose if they ate cooked food, like they lost. They're out of the club. You're not out of the club because you've eaten some mucus. That's in fact, that's part of being in the club is you ate this stuff and you're like, all right, I don't want to eat it anymore. So I just basically created a way of thinking about it for me that was prioritizing my body. It's like, this is why I'm doing. And now what I was able to get out of doing that was I've been able to do long-term fasting periods and be in the midst of some of the most hardcore circumstances in terms of what I've done in academia, and even sometimes things I had to do physically. I was able to be fasting and sustain these longer fasts and actually feed off of my environment, feed off of the societal structure that would push most people to want to eat mucus. I found a way to, it's almost like having a key or something. I found a way to tap into being able to feed off of that environment and feed off of these, turn what would possibly be looked at as kind of a negative energy that was coming my way, to transform that into a positive energy. And it basically had to do with my frame of reference and being committed, having that seriousness. It doesn't work for you if you have that excuse mentality that's based on, well, I got to eat this because I got to go to work. It's like, no, you're not eating it because you got to work. You're eating it because you're still addicted to it. Physically, you can still eat it, and you're still transitioning. So what are you doing that's in your power? Are you doing your enemas? If that's what you're into, are you, what is it that you're doing? So that's where I'm at with that.
What I'm kind of getting from you is like there's this line where it's like, on one side you have the excuse mentality, and the excuse mentality is completely different from physiological need. And then on the other side, you have the actual transitional system, and just using it. So like with me, and often the things that we do on that excuse side are not really mucus lean options. When we're talking like, if I'm in like a raw mucusless fruit, mucus lean might be like a baked potato, but maybe, but I might jump, if I'm dealing with the excuse side of the line, I might jump all the way to, like you're saying, a veggie burger, which is really not a mucus lean option from a raw mucusless fruit level. And in that way, you're kind of jumping around in a way that's not really the best for the system or for our body. And that's a fine line for me, because if I do want to make an excuse, it's usually something like that. It's like jumping around, not really like, and sometimes I'll have an excuse mentality, but I'll be smart about it. Like I'll have an excuse mentality, but I'll go for the cooked veggies, and then I'm like, whoa, that satisfied me. And when I get like back to my house or whatever, I'm like back on the fruit, and I don't really come off of the level that I'm at. And there's the other part of that is like recognizing the positive qualities of the level that you're at. So just because you have a symptom, just because you have a craving or you have an elimination effect, doesn't mean that you can't maintain. And that's something I've found, is that I might be on a fruit level and I go to work and they're eating all this stuff, it's funny because at work with these child care kids, it used to be that they were eating like milk and all this kind of pus, and now they're kind of implementing this quote unquote healthy nutritional system. And so they're eating stuff like, they're actually eating fruit a lot, and they're having veggies, but then they're also having like hummus or whole wheat crackers. And I find myself much more likely to take like a whole wheat cracker,
right.
Where it used to be like milk or string cheese.
Right.
String cheese was like a big one. So I'm not grabbing that stuff. But
yeah, that's interesting.
So there's an interesting fine line there. So if I'm having a craving, I might be like, oh, let me just slow it down with this whole wheat cracker. But that's not really what I am trying to do when I'm in a mucusless fruit phase.
No,
what I'm saying?
But I look at that as a little different than the excuse mentality. That's the addiction mentality. That's what we're dealing with. That's real addiction, because if it wasn't there, you wouldn't be getting it. You wouldn't. It's like here it is. It's out in front of your face. And then it's like, so that's a different set of strategies that you would have to implement to deal with that. Where if you're in that type of environment, and then it depends on how hardcore you go. I mean, if you go, you obviously, most people can't just quit their job. Or if they were in a situation that they found that they needed to be in a different environment, that's an effort that they would have to make, and a decision that they would have to make physiologically if they were just in a job that was just totally unconducive to practicing a mucusless diet. Then, and the same goes with where you live. A lot of people, you don't have the money or means to move, but that's a long-term goal. If you know you're living somewhere, you're in a job, and you're at some place that in a long term isn't going to work for the mucusless diet, then humans have migrated for years. That's a human tradition. The migration,
right.
we migrated here. We need to migrate back home, so we can migrate back to more tropical climates. But that becomes part of first making the diet that serious to you, so that you start to construct a long-term strategy. It might take 20 years, 30 years. How long do you save $100 a week? I don't know what your strategy is, but it becomes part of a mentality where you're always going to situate yourself in a circumstance where you can do the best practice of the diet that you can at that particular point. In that case, where you're in a situation where it's like, okay, here comes these crackers. Now that you know that kind of thing exists, because it's interesting as things get things get a little healthier, in terms of they get a little further away from the pus, and because that's almost that transition I'm talking about that I see in society, the larger transition toward the mucusless diet, where first we got to go through this vegetarian phase. This transition of the society is exactly like our transitions physiologically. Everybody is starting to come over into this vegetarian vegan phase. It's becoming this big deal now. More and more people gravitating toward it, and society is moving in that direction. So now we got children going that direction. Schools are starting to get rid of meat and implementing the soy burger kind of stuff more. And so we're going to see more of that. But as we get to those levels, at the same time, now they're going to start having things that we might eat at our weaker moments.
Right,
And so it gets incredibly interesting, these dynamics to watch them play out. In that case, for me, if I didn't want to eat, because I sort of, with something like a wheat cracker, I would never eat something like that without a salad. I had sort of had my own rules there. So it's like, okay, well, if that came, I wouldn't eat it without a salad, but if there was salad around, then okay, well, maybe I eat that with the salad. And if I'm because the other thing about craving and addiction, if you crave it, because if it's in front of your face and the capacity is within you to grab it and eat it, that means you need to be working there. Like, you might be thinking you're working on something that's higher, but that's showing you actually where you are, really actually are.
Right.
Because the difference is when you're at that other space, they can have all the wheat crackers in front of you in the world. It's going to appeal to you as much as the milk does now. So when you're confronted, and that's, to me, that's where the society can be used as a positive rather than a negative, because the society is showing you where you're at. It's like, look, I can get you with some wheat crackers. You ain't beyond this yet. You still got work to do in the wheat cracker area, And so I always looked at that as a positive thing. Like, okay, cool. Like, because I might not necessarily have, if I lock myself in my house, I might not have been exposed to that craving in that way. And so now I'm out here and I got exposed to it, and so and I ended up eating it, and so now I'm like, okay, well, cool. I can go back and start planning again. I see where I'm at. And to me, that's where the society thing, that's why I used to do that when I was at school all the time. When I'd go to school, I would get a chance to see where I was at. To see all the kind of food that people was bringing out, and just the whole vibe, and some of the personalities that would grate on my nerves. I had to be very compassionate because I was kind of in these environments of people that oftentimes thought so differently than me, were like diametrically opposed to the way I operated, but it made me stronger as a person, and it made me stronger as a mucusless diet practitioner. So I just accepted it and said, I'm gonna use this positively as opposed to trying to make an excuse or eating or something. And so what ended up happening for me was I did year after year after year for 3 years. I did 6-month-long juice fast while going to school. in one of the hardest academic school programs that there is. And I really hadn't necessarily been practicing the Mucusless diet for a long, long time, but it was something that I felt, and I was able to use the energies that were sort of a part of what we were doing, because it wasn't just me, like I'm fasting by myself. Brother Air was fasting, Loving Star was fasting. There was a group of us that were in this mode and really being excited about the diet, and so that was a big part of it. Later on, since then, having moved away from Cincinnati, I live in Columbus now. I'm able to, if it's time for me to do something like that, like a long-term fast or something, I'm able to be a bit more self-sustaining and self-motivated. It's kind of like that plug-in that is permanent. Like, I don't have to be right next to Brother Air, be right there. It's like that. I feel that connection is there, and that's part of, for me, that's part of this process. But overall, I'm an advocate for using the society structure that we find ourselves in to inspire us to do whatever it is we're supposed to do, and not as opposed to trying to use it as this frame it in this negative light, as if it's, oh well, I gotta if only I could move, I gotta eat this way, I gotta do. That was one reason why Brother Air, he lives in one of the most polluted, nasty cities in the country. And I'm glad I'm when you compare Cincinnati to Columbus in terms of pollution, it's you almost can't compare it, because Columbus is so much cleaner. And where I'm at, like I can walk outside and just breathe in the air, and it's like just beautiful. It's just love it. But down there where Brother Air lives, it's Cincinnati is not a very clean city, friendly city when it comes to air. But he just he wants to leave, and I almost didn't learn about the Mucusless diet because he had a plane ticket for his family in the 90s at one point to move to Africa. He was ready to go. What kept him here was a aunt of his that's in real estate actually gave him a house. Like, here's a house because I respect what you're trying to do, and here you go. And that's another one of these things we talk about sometimes with the Mucusless diet. You don't know what's gonna allow you to do what you're supposed to do. So you gotta be open.
Right. And see, that's and that's another piece about what I'm kind of dealing with, because when I'm dealing with some kind of mucusless level, I know that if I keep going, I see some things happening. And you made a great point about kind of using society and seeing where you're really at. And I also see that if I can just get over a hump here and there, when the hump shows up, like I said, I might have a craving or something, or a feeling of weakness. I know that when I get home and do my enema and have some fruit for dinner or whatever it is, or a nice salad, I feel great again. And it's like I'm just working at that level of, okay, there's this like small craving, but at the same time, I'm really not struggling that much. And I just got to go on through, and it's just like you say, like I'll see some things happen. Like there's been times in the past where I've been into a fasting period and I've made it through some difficult work days, and then the minute my fast gets real serious, I'll actually get a call like, oh, this such and such happened, so work is closed down for today.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it's like that time, and sometimes I wonder, like, the minute that I break my fast or temporarily break a fast, or come out of it in some way, I sometimes wonder, like, what would have happened if I kept going? So it's this fine line that I'm working with between where I'm at and where I can go.
Right. Yep. That's
it's like exactly what you were talking about. It's like it's a real fine line between when you use a mucus lean option and when you don't. As far as really practicing the system, it's a fine line.
And Brother Air says is really about practicing the diet, and kind of what we're talking about is an attitude. It's about having a certain type of attitude, a certain type of viewpoint that is just, I'm not negotiating. I'm not. It's just a way that you come at life, a way that you think about things that sort of set you up for success with practicing the Mucusless diet. And it's there was different points in my life where I used to read some of those, like the Dale Carnegie, the self-help type of books, and how to win friends and influence people and all that kind of stuff. But that's what I took from some of those type of things, is that there's a mentality there that I find to be genuine, and I understand why it leads to success, because there's a confidence that you have to develop within yourself, and there's a lot of ways for you to develop it. You can develop it. There's a lot of spiritual or religious texts that are meant to help for self-development in that arena. There's self-help books. There's the Dale Carnegie type of way. There's some people are gifted with that, and they just have a lot of that already, and but no matter how you get it, I'm not an advocate. The problem with a lot of those approaches are more about a brainwashing approach as opposed to the introspective of actually changing yourself from the inside out. I'm against that brainwashing kind of thing where you try to, like, I am confident, I am successful, I will be the strongest man in the world. Like that. Just like, no, we're not. That ain't it. But so yeah, we wanted to try and keep these a little shorter. So we're gonna go ahead and sign off for this particular episode. So I want to thank you, Tony, and we will be coming back at you with some more of these. So stay tuned. Peace, love, and breath.
What if I were to tell you that what you've learned about nutrition is totally wrong, and in fact, dangerous? What if the human body was not designed to eat the kinds of foods that we have been fed since childhood? Discover the simplest and most powerful natural lifestyle secret that has changed the lives of thousands. Professor Arnold Ehret's Mucusless Diet Healing System, annotated, revised, and edited by Professor Spira, is a complete course for every person who desires to take their health into their own hands. Visit www.mucusfreelife.com/revised-mucusless-diet to get your copy right now while supplies last.